Family Engagement, Rob Miller, TED Talk, EDL 522, St. Bonaventure University. This is TED.
As a parent or as an educator, you probably had to give up a weeknight to attend some boring activity at your school where information was dispersed and you left with a bunch of handouts and a bunch more questions. These open houses, meet the teacher nights, parent conferences, or whatever you call them, they serve a purpose. The same purpose they served 50 years ago when our parents and grandparents attended them. Now we need to really ask ourselves, are these nights effective? Are they engaging? Does the school get to know any more about my child or my situation from these nights? Unfortunately, probably not. So here's what I challenge all of you to do. Let's change these nights and let's create a shift where we think about taking advantage of the funds of knowledge in our community, in all of our different families. Let's embrace the differences in every household and let's involve the entire community in our educational process. I challenge you, let's be different.
Challenge accepted. When I think of engaging a community in a process, it makes me think of a sports analogy. One phrase we hear often where I live. It comes from our local sports teams. It's one buffalo. What is one buffalo, you might ask? It's one heartbeat. It's all in. It's believing in the process that where I'm eventually going and end up is different than where I am today. And it's way better. It takes work, planning, a process, and involvement. And a lot of that. And there might be some turbulence. So like my city and my community believes in one buffalo, whichever school I end up in will believe in one community and one school where we all chip in and work together to make our kids better and educate our children so they can set high goals and achieve them. And they know that we are all involved, we are all engaged, we're all rooting for them. And as one community, we work together to support our children. How can this be done? Are there examples? There are examples, and this can be done. One great example of a community engagement project is the One Book, One Community project. This idea is not new, and it was recently implemented and written about by a local school, Portville Elementary in Cattaraugus County. What a great way to promote and encourage family engagement. We all know how important literacy is. So do most of our families and caregivers. Well, let's all read together and support each other in this journey. One Book, One Community is an initiative where the people in a school and the members of the community read the same book. The premise of this program is to promote literacy and engage students and community members in thoughtful reflections around a common text. The community chose the book Wonder by R.J. Palacio. The power of the One Book, One Community comes from the reading connections formed between the students and the community and the book's extraordinary theme. In this one, it was kindness. Wonder was selected for the project for that very reason. In a world that seems to have more animosity than compassion, Wonder has the power to inspire people to choose kind, which was also the theme of the school this year. This project fully engaged the community. The enthusiasm for the book has transcended the school walls to reach local businesses, organizations, and the families. It's not uncommon during this project for students and their families to walk into their favorite local restaurant, hardware store, or dentist office and hear the employees and customers talking about Wonder. The community shared in the excitement, and the school reached members of the community in different ways. The community was not just reading and talking, they showed their support for the project. They used Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with a common hashtag. Lawns and business windows will reinforce the project with signs and paintings. We're Reading Wonder. Are you? When the movie premiered in November, the school partnered with BOCES to make sure students, families, and teachers could watch the movie at the local theater. The project culminated with an event to bring in families and share their thoughts and stories about the book with each other. Programs like the one we just talked about that Portville Elementary implemented are great examples of how we can engage families. Events like the one I just explained are developed to form school, family, and community partnerships, which are critical to the success of our students. They include all family members, business leaders, and community groups, all participating in goal-oriented activities to read the book at all grade levels, linked to student achievement and student success. These engaging events need to replace our old school events that don't allow all of our families to participate, and they don't consider all of the problems that our community faces when it comes to including every person in the educational process. And those old strategies don't take advantage of the funds of knowledge that our families have. I'm going to use that example to demonstrate with you some of my ideas that I value for schools and community relationships. How to ensure respect with all families, a few ways we can measure our community engagement plan, and more practices you can start today to begin enhancing your school and community relationships. Let's start with some core values. Values are important in developing a vision and a plan. These values should be at the forefront of your vision when planning for family engagement. Core Value 1, communication. Communication definitely plays a key role. It needs to be done regularly and constantly and through various modalities. You may communicate with parents through the school website by creating an email listserv for the community to join, a monthly community calendar, or setting up planning committees that includes families, community members, and business representatives. Communication can also occur by reaching out and partnering with local businesses. You need to find a way to benefit the business and create a synergy for both of you. When starting the One Book, One Community plan, the district should ask for community volunteers to help choose a book and develop activities around the book. The school could easily create a social media hashtag, newsletter, business signs, or use any technology to engage the community in the program. We need to reach the families and the community where they are. I believe there can never be enough communication. Now this takes us to our second core value, fun. To be engaging and impactful, any community engagement activity should be fun. In most cases, families are only ever in the school building for serious matters. When thinking of events to host at the district, don't forget this value. It's critical. Try to make events content related, but not in an additional learning kind of way. Have participants be able to take literature home about the importance of the activities or event, but it's not always necessary to showcase during the event. Another way to keep the relationship fun is to always stay positive. Put on a Disney face. In interactions with families and the school, school employees are always viewed as spokespeople for the school, and staying positive about the school can improve relationships and allow for the fun to happen easily. If teachers, students, secretaries, and all school stakeholders buy in to the One Book, One Community project, or whatever project you have, and develop a positive image about it, it will help to ease the community. The school could hold writing or poster contests related to the theme of the book that they choose. This also brings us to core value 3, and this is just as important as all the others. The last core value is to celebrate success within the community by making student and teacher success visible to all. One way to start is asking a few questions, like who lives in our community, what stake do they have in the success of our students, and how can we engage them in supporting our students and our programs. When schools, districts, and community groups collaborate and align their efforts around student achievement and student-teacher successes, more students will succeed. Success can be sustained and education will flourish. We should celebrate our One Community, One Book project, or others like it, by sharing our outcomes with social media, school news, the Board of Education, and their meetings, and any local print or news media around. We should always ask for feedback from our community in the forms of surveys and observational data. Family engagement will not be maximized if we are not showing respect for all members in the community. Our community is composed of many different cultures, and we want to make sure to avoid biases coming from the school. One way to prevent any bias is to first identify potential barriers that may be apparent with the families in our community when it comes to school relationships, and design processes to minimize these barriers. Preventative actions can provide ways to alleviate some potential biases. Other ways to refrain from creating biases is to make sure communication materials are jargon-free, in plain English and different languages represented in the community. Use existing community networks and forms of communications to publicize events. Make sure to not leave anyone out. Recognize the term family as important and acknowledge the term has many different meanings, and avoid using specific words that could leave out family members. One example of this is the word parent, where now students might not be raised or living with their actual parents. Be aware of words, images, and situations that suggest that all or most members of a group are the same. Avoid patronizing language and tokenism toward any racial or ethnic group, such as not having special nights for one culture, but for every culture in the community. And finally, use neutral words for man or woman in job titles to describe policemen to police officers, salesmen to sales clerks, the girl lawyer. Showing respect for all families and community members will help build the relationship you need to form a partnership. Now that we have our core values in place and the idea of respect for all families, there has to be a way in measuring the implementation engagement of the community and the school. Within a school and community relationship, there are 6 types of involvement: parenting, communicating, volunteering, learning at home, decision-making, and collaborating with the community, that offer a broad range of school, family, and community activities that can engage all parties and help meet student needs. Schools can't be responsible for every aspect, but can provide some programming to help each type. Then schools can measure the types of involvement done within a year. When trying to improve, schools can follow the format of identifying stakeholders within the community in the involvement area. Consider the questions: what impact engagement will have on these stakeholders' interests? Who represents these interest groups? Are there existing community networks or forms of communication in these interest groups that the school could utilize? Hopefully, by evaluating the engagement of the community in the school, there will be ways to improve upon it to build better relationships as time passes. It's critical to start incorporating these ideas in your school today. Research shows that parent, family, and community involvement in education correlates with higher academic performance and school improvement. The high involvement rate leads to student learning, higher grades, attending school more regularly, staying in school longer, and enrolling in higher level programs. The relationship helps both at the elementary and the secondary level, regardless of the parent's education, family income, or background. And the research shows that parent involvement affects minority students' academic achievement across all races. Community support of the educational process is considered one of the top characteristics common to high-performing schools. So what can you do today? An easy thing to start is by trying to change your language. Change languages for biases, as mentioned earlier, especially the terms parent to family members, or replacing mom and dad to caregiver. Make a positive phone call weekly instead of writing a note or email to make it more personal. Change the mindset that calls from the school can be positive. Include family members as participants in school decisions, governance, and advocacy activities through school councils or improvement teams, committees, and other organizations. Improve recruitment and training to involve families as volunteers and as audiences at the school or in other locations. Enable educators, your teachers, to work with volunteers who support students and the school. Provide meaningful work and flexible scheduling for these events. And finally, begin focusing on the core values and how they might look for your school and community. Hopefully these ideas and suggestions will help you understand that it does take one community and one school to develop a child. Thank you.